I think 3,000 years is long enough to wait to recognize this axiomatic and basic truth of where Israel's capital is. I ask you, where is Israel's capital if not Jerusalem? Why should we wait to state the simple fact of where our capital is?
Well, let's turn to how this event has passed off now, particularly in Gaza. Dozens of people dead, more than 2,000 wounded. This was excessive force, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't excessive force because what Israel was facing was an onslaught of thousands of people gathering at its border, shooting guns and placing IEDs and lobbing Molotov cocktails, all with the express purpose of killing Israelis and destroying Israel. That's what the Hamas terrorist organization was chanting.
Well,
that's exactly what they were saying, that we are going to kill every Jew.
How many
those aren't my words, those are the precise words
How
of
many
Hamas.
Israeli soldiers or police were actually wounded or killed?
Well, I don't know what the premise of that question is, that it would be better if more of them were killed. I think it's enough.
No, the premise is we're trying to gauge what the level of threat was to your people and therefore whether the use was proportionate. The figure we've heard from the IDF spokesman is that one soldier was lightly wounded on your side. So if there were people shooting, there can't have been many, and it can't have been that much of a threat to justify killing more than 50 people and wounding 2,000.
Well, let's talk about the scope of the threat. Israel has received a barrage in past years of tens of thousands of missiles. Hamas has dug terror tunnels underneath Israel to try to kill civilians. Had the soldiers not stopped this attempted mass infiltration by a terrorist organization that openly preaches for genocide of every Jew, then the families that were right behind those soldiers, living a few football fields away, could have experienced a mass slaughter, and that's exactly what we prevented from happening.
But look, it's a situation that the IDF, the Israeli military, has a lot of experience in. In that very place, it's been a weekly thing now for some weeks to have these very large demonstrations. They must have considered the possibility that thousands of people might try and rush the fence. Why weren't there water cannon, other non-lethal weapons that could be used to allow you to stop civilians doing that?
Well, of course we tried that, but if you were sitting at home eating a meal with your family, trying to protect your family, and if you had a fence outside of your house, and on the other side of that fence were mass murdering terrorists that were carrying knives and shooting guns and placing bombs and saying, as soon as we get over this fence, we're going to slaughter your family, you might take every measure necessary in order to protect your family. And that's exactly what Israel did.
If we look at the reaction from the German Foreign Ministry, UK Foreign Ministry, they all accept your right to defend your border and to defend your people. The only issue, and the really salient issue, is whether proportionate force was used. Now, you mention whether or not it was a deliberate tactic by Hamas to use civilians. Once again, that must be a thing, if what you say is right, that the Israeli military is used to dealing with. Haven't you just given them the exact result, which if they were adopting that strategy, they would have wanted, which is dozens of dead people?
Look, it's a very difficult situation, admittedly. The headquarters of Hamas in the last war was the Shifa hospital. The interior minister, of Hamas said that women and children excel at being human shields. It's exceedingly difficult when people are shooting behind children not to wound anybody who's innocent. That is the dilemma that we face on a daily basis.
Well, let's talk about where this goes from here, because we both know in these situations there are funerals the following day, emotions run high, and it generates the desire for more violence. How are you going to try and stop this turning into a major situation, a major problem, maybe another intifada?
Well, what can really stop this from devolving into more violence is Hamas can decide to stop waging war against Israel. It can decide, rather than investing the billions of dollars that it has received in aid, instead of investing those in bullets and bombs, it can invest those in schools and roads and hospitals to actually take care of their people for the very first time. But it's evident from their actions that they don't actually care about the lives of their people. They are boastful about the fact that they are sending civilians to die. That is a travesty, And this terrorist organization needs to stop waging war against Israel. It needs to start caring for its people, and that can be the real turning point here.
David Keyes, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.